What is happening, everybody? Welcome into another great episode of the Mile High on Broad podcast. As we discussed last week, we're joined again by Talon and Dan. We're going to continue our little mini series on redrafting the NFL. Last week, if you didn't catch it, go back and check it out. We all drafted Super Bowl contenders from NFL players. I think Dan right now is the reigning Super Bowl champion with his roster, the Chiefs Light. This week, we're doing something a little bit different. We're actually going to go out there and we're going to draft the worst possible teams that we can off the starting rosters. We're going to see who can put together the absolute worst team, an 0-17 target. Same kind of rules as last time around. Every player is available. You have to draft from a position that they're currently in on their current roster: quarterback, wide receiver ones, wide receiver twos, running backs, tight ends. We're also going to draft a team level, offensive line, pass rush, and secondary, and a coach. The only other stipulation we added for this one is we removed and created a fifth team. Will not be drafted. It's just pre-drafted. We're going to call this the all-injured team. And this team would never actually get to 0-17 because they would just forfeit the entire season because they could never actually field the team. That team is going to consist of quarterback Trey Lance, running back Rashad Penny, wide receiver Kadarius Toney, wide receiver 2 Michael Thomas, and tight end Irv Smith Jr. And enough said, none of those guys, I think, have actually put together more than 4 or 5 games in a season, so they'd never be able to play. We're going to start things off as with last time. We pre-rolled for draft order. Dan will be picking first, Talon with the number 2 pick, Mike the 3, and somehow I got the 4th pick again. So wonderful. You can tell there's no favoritism on the show as I get the last pick. Snake draft is always for you fantasy guys out there. So I will be picking 2 and then first on the comeback. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off. Dan, give us your first pick. Worst team possible, 0-17. How are you starting us out?
It's tough. I mean, I don't know which direction to go. I mean, picking a coach, picking a terrible running back. But I mean, I tend to like drafting guys who are proven losers in this situation. And there's a little bit of a loophole here in that Zach Wilson qualifies. So I think I'm going to lean on that and start with Zach Wilson.
I can't argue with that pick. I mean, like with last time, you start the draft with the best quarterback in the league. And this time around, you start with the worst possible quarterback in the league, Zach Wilson. Absolutely terrible. All right, Talon, number 2, how are you starting us off?
I'm also going to go quarterback, most important position for helping you lose the game. And I'm going to go with my favorite player to watch lose games, and that is Baker Mayfield.
Can't argue with that pick. He was also on my board. The guy's not very good at football. Yeah.
The best part is he brings you along for a little bit of hope.
Just enough to get you excited to just crush them. All right, Mike, where are we going?
I think I'm also going quarterback here. I've learned a little bit from my mistakes last time in waiting to try to get that quarterback, so I don't want to get stuck with too good of a quarterback this time. So I'm actually going to go with, I think it was the team that was the worst last year, but somehow Lovie Smith ended up stealing away that first overall pick from them. I'm going to take Davis Mills as my quarterback.
I love when you leave me 2 of my guys on the board and I can draft them last. So it's beautiful. Man, like Dan, I was looking at this. I rewrote how I wanted to draft this first, like 6 or 7 times. And I was like, all right, I actually have a little bit more room in quarterback. I think it'd still be horrible. There's a couple other guys. So I think I'm going to start these off. I'm going to go back to back here. I'm going to start off with an offensive line. Because if you can't protect your quarterback, even if he's okay, it's going to hurt you a lot. I'm going to draft the Bears offensive line. They had allowed the most sacks in the league last year and had the most negative plays allowed. So this is a terrible offensive line, and we're going to have them protect a terrible quarterback later. So I'm going to start with the Bears O-line. And I think I think I gotta go ahead and steal a wide receiver one here, just based on the fact that I think there are some really, really bad wide receiver ones, but I think that they get semi-competent a little bit later on. I'm gonna go ahead and draft. Yeah, I'm gonna draft Nico Collins as my wide receiver one.
That was my next pick.
Look, somebody's going to take this guy, so I'll go ahead and get it. But it was between Nico Collins and Treylon Burks for me. I think both are bad. I think Treylon Burks at least has a little bit more upside, and maybe he just was bad last year because of his quarterback situation. But Nico Collins has been bad every year that he's been in the league. So Nico Collins will start my my team off at on the offense. All right, Mike, where are we going? Pick 2.
This is a pick that I don't want to have to make, but I don't think that he's going to be good this year. He was a guy that was not very good last year. He's a guy that's really kind of dropped off these last couple of years, and he's certainly a little bit older now. And Adam Thielen doesn't really seem to be able to catch the ball any further than about 7 yards down the field. So with him being a wide receiver one, and he's now like 32 years old, I don't think he has anything left in him. I'm a fan of him, but I think he's cooked, and I think he's really just going to have a bad year this year, honestly.
All right. Talon, you and Dan switch spots on the screen on me. Don't confuse me like that. Go ahead and make your second pick.
All right. Following your lead here with O-line, because Baker Mayfield already can't throw, so why not make sure he just gets hit every play? I'm gonna go with the Saints offensive line. I don't think they could protect any quarterback right now, and probably not anytime in the near future either. So, R.I.P. Derek Carr.
All right, Dan, you get back-to-back picks here. Started off with Zach Wilson. How are you stinking up this roster more?
Well, as we know, defense wins championships. Defense also loses games. Actually, looking at defensive rankings last season, all the worst teams were all the worst defenses. So I'm going to go ahead and take the team that not only was atrocious defensively, but also did nothing to upgrade it so far this season. I mean, they were allowing a 12-3 touchdown to interception ratio, 67% completion rating. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Raiders secondary.
Yep, they were on my board. They're trash.
And then, I mean, it's tough. There's so many bad options here that, like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of bad O lines. There's a lot of bad defensive lines. But I mean, I think I gotta go. I'm probably gonna have to go with a receiver. Because I agree with you. I think that the receivers get better a lot faster than some of the other positions, especially the receiver ones. Unfortunately, I think the bottom tier of this is all like former first-round picks that just haven't panned out yet. So you never know if it's going to like turn into something. But I think I'm going to go with the guy that I think has the I'm going to go with Christian Watson.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's got bricks for hands. So as fast as and athletic as he is, like, I mean, with Zach Wilson throwing him the ball, I don't think there's much shot of anything happening here.
Yeah, you would actually have to be good at catching the ball if you're trying to catch from Zach Wilson.
Right.
Like, I think Watson had some flashes. I mean, he's a big, fast guy, but I don't know if he's an elite level wide receiver. And I agree. I don't know if his physicality can translate to the NFL and have the type of success we had in college, because, you know, you can beat up on small guys in college, but you get to the pros and all of a sudden everyone is big and fast, and suddenly it doesn't work as well.
Well, and I'm not looking to give Wilson a safety valve either. I'm going for as much unreliability on this team as possible.
I love it. All right, Talon, where are we going next?
All right. I'm going to jump on the receiver board too. And hear me on this. I'm going to go with Juju. I think he's a quarterback-dependent receiver. And with Mayfield throwing the ball, I think he gets benched in 2 games.
He was also on my board as well. So I can't fault you for Juju.
He looks really good when you have Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball, or
Or
Big
Antonio Brown on the opposite end. Yeah.
All right, Mike, where are we going?
From here, I think I'm actually going to go coach. I think that we've seen more and more this becoming more and more important about the coaches every year. And I think I'm going to end up taking the coach with one of, if not the worst records in NFL history, and that is Dennis Allen. So he's been terrible. He had a stint before where it didn't work. He hasn't been very good lately. I don't think Dennis Allen is very good.
Fun.
All right, that leaves it to me. That was one of my coaches, so I think I'm going to have to go coach here, unless I want to be a real, snake and put some guys that actually have winning records, but I think are terrible coaches. But I think if we're trying to build the worst team, I'm going to pick guys that I think are terrible and also can't win, regardless of the players on their team. And look, coach means a lot in the NFL. You need to have a quarterback and you need to have a coach, or you're not winning anything. I saw firsthand last year how much a coach can destroy a team. And so I'm going to actually go with the coach that has been a head coach on 2 separate teams and actually has the worst winning percentage.
I knew it.
And I'm going to draft Josh McDaniels as my head coach. You can say what you want about him being offensive coordinator. The dude is a travesty as a head coach. Not only can he not win very many games, but he also somehow manages to implode whatever people he does have on his team. And he hasn't done it once. He's done it twice. Josh McDaniels, take your crown. You are my crappiest coach. And I think I'm going to follow that up with, I'm also going to go with a secondary. Similar to Dan, if you can't play defense at all, I don't think you can win. We saw it last year. There were teams that could put up a lot of points, and didn't matter if your defense can't stop anybody. It doesn't matter how many points you try and score, you're going to give it up. And I'm going to keep with my trend of the worst team in football, and I'm going to draft the Bears secondary, who not only gave up a ton of yards and touchdowns, but also managed to only come away with a league low 6 interceptions on the entire season. Mike, on the clock.
Yeah, that's not great. So I think I'm also gonna take a defense here. Looking for a terrible pass rush. And I think where I'm gonna go with this, I don't think anyone's taking the Houston Texans pass rush, have they? Okay, yeah. I mean, for me, Houston, again, they were just a terrible team last year. We saw last week Dan tried to recreate Chiefs 2.0. I'm gonna try to essentially recreate the Texans 2.0, see if I can't go down that road, see how that treats me.
You're off to a good start. All right, Talon, where are we going?
All right, I'm gonna go running back, and I'm gonna take Pacheco from the Chiefs here.
First running back off the board.
I just don't think there's anything special about him, and waste of a draft pick on the Chiefs' part.
7th round, not like they gave up much on the kid.
Undrafted after bagging groceries at King Supers, amazing pick. 7th round, terrible pick.
All right, Dan, where are we going here?
I mean, I'm tempted to follow up that with the running back, but I don't know. I think I'm going to go running back as well, as one of my picks here. I was debating between a couple of players, but I think the worst running back left on the board is a plotter that people were for some reason excited about in the preseason, and then he had an unfortunate accident. Maybe not an accident, an unfortunate incident that kept him out a few games. But Brian Robinson, I don't see it. There's no explosiveness in that game at all. He is a fall forward for 2 yards type of back. He averaged like 3 a game or 3 a carry last year. And yeah, I think he'll run really poorly behind the O-line I'm going to take.
Yeah, I can't disagree with Brian Robinson. He's not good.
Are we doing?
It's a fun story, and they'll keep him around because that's what Ron Rivera does. But yeah, no.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Mike.
Nope.
I get 2.
Oh, you do get 2.
Then it wouldn't even come back.
It wouldn't even come back to you.
Yeah, you were just. I don't know where you're at right now.
This is what I talked about with you screwing up my draft board. If it was just a nice order, it'd be easy for me. But you got me hopping back and forth.
And that's fun. That is fun for me.
You know what I should have done is instead of pre-typing names on the draft board, I should have just filled them in the order we were picking in. But that would have been too intelligent for me to come up with prior to just now. So
am I able to go back and redraft Ben as my head coach because clearly he can't think these things through?
All right, Dan, you're back on the clock.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I'm going to keep with the theme of given my the most unreliable weapons I possibly can. Oh, actually, to add on to my Brian Robinson pick, he also doesn't catch the ball, so Wilson can't dump it off to him. So anyway, yeah, back to this. I think I'm going to try to go with another no hands, home run or nothing, probably going to be overthrown or underthrown every time he gets the ball with Devin Duvernay, because I don't think he's anything.
I'm so glad seeing that almost every player that we've drafted so far were also people that I consider the worst players in the entire league. So it's good to see a consensus on these names.
Ben, really quickly, we're doing a pass rush and a secondary still, right?
Correct. Yep. Pass rush and secondary.
That's what I thought.
All right, Talon.
All right, I'm going secondary, and I'm taking the Titans. They allowed 65% completion rating, 7 yards a play. They just, just awful secondary back there.
Yeah, they're not good. Ding, ding. Mike, you're on the clock.
Yeah, so we've had a couple running backs go off the board. Yet one of my big bad names is still hanging around there. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were considered one of the worst rushing offenses in NFL history, so I might as well take their running back who couldn't average more 4 yards a carry. Give me Rachaad White.
All right. So that puts it on me. You guys have made this easy on to take a quarterback or a running back right now. So I guess I'm just going to go ahead and fill out my crappiest defense imaginable. And to pair with my worst Bears pass secondary, I'm going to go ahead and take the worst pass rush in the entire NFL last year and also the worst at stopping the run. And I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons front seven. I think I'm going to follow it up with my wide receiver 2. And where I agree, Devin Duvernay is horrible. I'm going to go with a guy who has also been in the league for a few years and has consistently done absolutely nothing. And I'm talking about Westbrook Akine. I don't even say his name right. It's a long name, and he hasn't done anything in years. So you are now my wide receiver 2.
That's who I was going to try to snake.
So we're going to roll it back to you, Mike. Where are we going?
Well, that was one of my wide receivers that I really liked. Another wide receiver that I also really like that I don't like. Yeah, there you go. Dislike is a guy who he was good for a while, but I think these last couple of years between injuries and just not being very productive last year at all, another guy that just cannot get down the field in Robert Woods. He doesn't seem to have it anymore. I think he's another guy that's just old. He's washed. He's in for a really bad season.
Mike's just going to old dudes who can't move anymore on his offense.
Hey man, I can't beat you if I can't throw it more than 4 yards down the field.
Fun fact, also a Texan currently. So continuing with your Texans stream.
Oh, see, there we go. I forgot he was a Texan. I thought he was with the Titans still, but yeah, you're right.
All right, Talon, back on the clock.
All right, I'm going to round out my defense, and I'm going to go I think I'm going to go Steelers pass rush.
You're taking TJ Watt. That's an interesting.
Well, here's the thing. TJ Watt is a Watt. I expect him to miss half the season, every season.
Cold.
Okay.
And
But without TJ Watt, they are horrible. So
Yeah.
it's not that it's a bad pick in that sense that if he's not on the field, they are hot garbage.
You're banking on injuries here.
and I promise you he will not be on the field.
I was looking at the stats. I'm like, how were they this bad? And then I remembered, like, oh, right, he missed like 9 games, and they were so bad those 9 games that even when he came back, he couldn't pull them off the bottom.
And this is how it starts. He's going to pull a bicep next into a torn pec, and then we're going to come into the next season, and it's going to be a hamstring or an Achilles. So I don't trust the Watt family as good as they are. They're not durable.
All right, Dan, I'm going to give you your back-to-backs this time, so go ahead and make your picks.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I still need an offensive line. And I think I got to go with the offensive line that did their best to try to hold back the best running back in football, like just best overall, like running back. And I'm going to take the Titans O-line, who just lost Taylor Lewan too.
Yeah. Yep. As soon as you said that, I was like, yeah, they just lost their left tackle too.
Yeah. That's not going to be fun. And when I say that, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch Zach Wilson try to play behind that thing. And then
fans are going to be catching a lot of passes.
Yeah, seriously. So the other pick I'm going to make is going to be my defense. The pass rush I'm going to go with is going to be the other Watt brother who just retired. I'm going to take the Cardinals.
They were really bad too. All righty. I think that puts it back on you, Talon.
Does. I'm going to go wide receiver too. And I think I'm going to take Dobbs from Green Bay. I think it's another receiver who just can't hold on to anything. And I mean, Baker's not going to get the ball to him anyway, but on the off chance it floats up to him, he'll still drop it.
It's funny watching all the hype he got in the preseason and then just kind of.
He was really good in the preseason, but yeah.
Putted around to a whole bunch of not being able to catch the ball uselessness. He looked exactly like what he was drafted at, which was a very late round pick who can't put it together. Even with the MVP trying to get him the ball. So
plus, sure, the injuries also probably didn't help him. So I'm sure talent that's going in your favor there too.
Hey, I expect half my team to be on the bench, by midseason.
In a wheelchair and in a cast.
Yeah, exactly. And we're probably just going to make him go out and play. We got no depth. So
there you go.
All right, Mike, where are we going next?
Next, we're going to go finish rounding out this defense here. I think we're going to go with a secondary that I think is really, really bad. I think they were one of the worst rated secondaries all last year in the Minnesota Vikings.
All right, so that puts me back on the clock. I don't have to take a quarterback or a running back, and I don't really care about tight end because I looked at him and it's either I draft a guy who I don't think is that good, but other people do, or you draft one of these guys that's really a no-name and hasn't really played his whole career, who's now thrust into a starting job. So I might just let you guys work out tight end for me and take that with my last pick. So we'll draft a running back. I'm going to take a guy that has been in the league for a while. And at one point last year, his head coach said, this guy is not going to play on this team anymore. And somehow he found his way back on the team, but maybe one of the most efficient running backs I've ever seen. I think his career average is like a 2.2 yard per carry. So, the dude is just not that good. And I'm going to go ahead and draft Cam Akers as my starting running back.
He's one of those guys that had potential, but man, he can't hang on to the ball. He killed me in fantasy like 8 different times last year with all his fumbles.
He's just not great.
He had one excellent game last year, but that's it. Everything else was not good.
The whole team had one excellent game, and it was when they put up 52 points against Denver on Christmas. But aside from that, the whole team was garbage, and he wasn't any better.
It's a good Christmas.
Oh man. All right. Where do I go? Do I take my quarterback? Anybody have any guesses where I'm going with quarterback?
Is
Oh,
it
I
your
know.
current quarterback?
Huh?
Is it your current quarterback?
Unlimited.
It's not going to be Russell Wilson. But you know, I had Justin Fields on my board because I think the kid is not good. I don't understand the hype behind him. He runs around a lot, but as far as being able to throw an accurate pass, it's abysmal. However, when I look at the remaining quarterbacks, I have to take a guy that I have even less faith in than Justin Fields, which for everyone who knows how much I hate Justin Fields, that's saying a lot. But I'm going to have to take Desmond Ridder as my starting quarterback because, well, it's Desmond Ridder, and he's horrible. So I'm going to take the number 2 trash quarterback on my board, and I'm going to go with Desmond Ridder.
Is that all the quarterbacks off the board?
That is all of our quarterbacks off the board.
I'm a little bit surprised nobody took Sam Howell. He was someone that I was looking at, but
Yeah, I thought about putting him on my board, but I haven't seen him play enough to say for sure that he's crap, which he probably is, but I don't know. I know Desmond Ridder isn't good. I watched that happen. I know that Justin Fields isn't good. I know that Baker Mayfield isn't good, and I know that Zach Wilson is absolute garbage. So those were my top 4 on my board. Howell probably would have been 5, but I gave him a benefit of I think only played 1 game last year.
yeah, you're saying Davis Mills is better than all of them? Come on now.
Yes, I would take Davis Mills over any of those 5 dudes.
Hey, fair enough.
So, all right, let's go ahead and move on. So we got Mike. You got 2 spots left, a tight end and an O-line. Where are we going?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with tight end here. I'm going to go with somebody who has been a career backup as a tight end. And despite the fact that the Packers starting tight end for a couple of years has been hurt and not hurt, hurt and not hurt, Josiah DeGuara just has never been able to do anything whatsoever. He has about 20 career catches in like 3 years. So I'm not familiar with him, so I don't have any faith in him.
All right, Talon. We
All
have
right.
a coach and a tight end left. Where are we going?
I'm going to go tight end, and I'm probably saying his name right, but I think it's Dolchich.
Dolchich.
He's on the Broncos, so that's all I have to say.
Interesting. All right. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and argue with you. He's a speedy little guy. He actually had some decent games last year after he came back from injury. But I mean, again, it's a tight end. I can't fault you till he proves it. So, Dan, back-to-back picks. Go ahead and fill out your roster, coach and tight end. Where are we going to round out your team?
I'm going coach to start, and I'm going with a guy who has a history of being really terrible working with quarterbacks. He got lucky with 1 quarterback, just 1, and he has been awful otherwise. That quarterback's name was Cam Newton. So I'm going with Riverboat Ron. I think his play calling style is about as outdated as the NFL currently sees. So he'll be a perfect fit for, 3 yards a carry, no accuracy, and no O-line. So yeah, I'm going Riverboat Ron with Zach Wilson. He's also very familiar with Brian Robinson. And
Yeah, he's gonna say he loves your running back, so this is gonna be a great tandem.
He helped him to a solid 2.8 yards per carry last year. So I think that's a good pairing. And then I got to pick one of these tight ends. So I got to figure out who I know. Let's see. I mean, there's a lot of high end terrible guys on this.
No shortage of bad tight ends.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you pick your poison. I don't want to. I think I'm going to go with somebody who can not help in as many ways possible. So this guy is not a very good blocker. He's not very explosive, and his hands are average. He has also got a strong familiarity not catching passes from Zach Wilson. I'm going to take Tyler Conklin to go along with him, who looked pretty good with Mike White, but not with Zach Wilson at all. So I'm going to pair those 2 up.
All righty. Talon, Talon, that leaves you with coach, and shockingly, there's a terrible coach that's still left on the board. So let's see where you're going with your head coach.
I haven't heard his name, so I think he's still on there. But I'm gonna take Cliff Kingsbury from Arizona.
He actually got fired, so he is not the coach.
Oh, he's not the coach. Well then,
He was bad. You're not wrong.
It's a
but
good
that's
thought
why he-
process. He
that's
was
why
so bad he got
Yeah.
fired. So
He
you're on the
was-
right
he
track.
was bad. Well, then I'm gonna take Shane from Indianapolis because the Colts were bad last year, and I'm gonna blame him. And you make Jonathan Taylor look bad, I'm gonna blame the coach all the way.
The only
The bold
downside
move-
with that is
The
that
bold
he
move to
was
blame the guy that just got there 6 weeks ago.
he was just hired as the head coach, so he was not there last year. That would have been Frankie Reich. So
I'm sticking by my pick.
I approve.
Worst. He's terrible. He's got no stats.
He does have no stats,
That's
but hey,
true.
he's never
Never
lost
won
a
a game.
game. He's never lost a game either, guys.
True. Very true.
all right, Mike, offensive line.
Yeah, I think I'm going to end up going with the Rams. They've ended up getting Matt Stafford hurt a little bit. They haven't looked the same since that Super Bowl run, and they really haven't looked good since Big Witt has retired. So I think that between that and just the lack of talent on that offensive line, they're going to help me get Davis Mills jacked up a lot. So give me the Rams line.
Can't argue with that. All right, I guess that leaves me to round out the draft as always. And I got a tight end left. It's just a crapshoot. Pick your poison. Do I go with a guy like Jelani Woods, who's big but can't catch the ball and doesn't really seem to be very good at football? Do I pick a guy like Noah Fant, who can't block, is supposed to be athletic, but seems to get breathed on and fall over when he's running routes or gets looked at? Or do I take a guy like Jake Ferguson, who is now the starter for the Cowboys and I don't think is actually that good at football either? And I think that's the way that I'm going to go, because I know that if I pick Noah Fant, there are too many people out there who think he's actually good at football that they won't think that this is the worst team. So I'll pick a guy, Jake Ferguson, as my starting tight end.
Almost went with that.
All right, guys, so we filled out our teams. I'm going to run through them real quick, and then I got a couple of questions before we open it up to general discussion. So we'll start my team. I have Josh McDaniels destroying another franchise. He's going to have Desmond Ridder, Cam Akers, Nico Collins, Westbrook Akine, Ferguson, the Bears offensive line, the Falcons pass rush, and the Bears secondary. Mike,
Not great.
we got Dennis Allen, Davis Mills, White, Adam Thielen, Robert Woods, DeGuara, the Rams offensive line, the Texans pass rush, and the Vikings secondary. Dan, you got Riverboat Ron, Zach Wilson, Brian Robinson, Christian Watson, Devin Duvernay, Tyler Conklin, the Titans offensive line, Cardinals pass rush, and the Raiders secondary. And Talon, Shane Steichen, zero faith. Baker Mayfield, Isaiah Pacheco, Juju, Romeo Dobbs, Greg Dulcich, the Saints offensive line, the Steelers pass rush, and the secondary, you took the Titans. For some reason, I just wrote your name down instead of writing Titans.
Titan Talon, same thing.
All right, so let's start this out. We're going to go around. Who do you think is the worst team that we drafted? We're going to start with Talon. Who was the worst team drafted?
Not counting my team, because with outside of JJ Watt being healthy, there's no way we win one game. I'm going to go with your team strictly based on Josh McDaniels.
Thank you. Thank you. He's horrible.
He's awful. He's going to ruin it. He ruins everything he touches outside of just calling some offensive plays for Tom Brady. That's all he's good at. And that's probably because Tom just told him what to do.
All right, Dan, where are we going? Who are the worst team? Who's going 0-17?
Man, they're so bad. I mean, we could be right on any of these. I think I gotta go. I think I got to go Mike's team just because of the receiving core. Like, that's bad. I mean, that's like not only old, not only injury prone, but also no explosiveness. I mean, the only redeeming quality is that they do have reliable hands. So they can, 4 yards catch.
All right, Mike.
Yeah, I think Dan's right. I think we all did the assignment well. I think none of our teams are very good whatsoever. So I think there's a legitimate chance that all of these teams go 0-17. But if you're saying they all play each other on the schedule one time, man, I don't like Josh McDaniels. So I think I might have to give you a nod there too, Ben.
Yeah, he's horrible. Well, I had to go coach early because I had 3 big names, but I was like, he's got to be horrible, and he's first on my board. All right, so looking at this, there's definitely some crap on a bunch of these teams. Dan, I actually don't hate your receiving core, but what I do hate is Zach Wilson because he's terrible. And I don't think it mattered who you picked at wide receiver. You could have actually picked good people who he actually did have last year on his team, and he was still terrible. So literally based solely on the fact that Zach Wilson is your quarterback, this is the worst team imaginable. So you get my vote, Zach Wilson. All right. So what would you guys think was the hardest position to pick the worst player at?
I think it was wide receiver 1. Because like all the proven options are off the board. So you're picking like the unproven guys, and that's it. Like Treylon Burks was a 1st-round pick, like Christian Watson, Chris Olave, like I mean Juju has a 1,500-yard season under his belt, so, and he wouldn't have fit my build. I wanted somebody that's going to be, farther away for Zach Wilson to miss. But yeah.
I don't think Baker Mayfield could hit Juju no matter how open he got, if he could still even get open.
I think outside, I think that's about right. Because I think outside, I wrote it down as like Nico Collins, terrible. And then I was like, it's either a bunch of like young guys, again, Treylon Burks, Rashad could be good, or it's, some of those like older guys that have flashed before in their career, which is why they're still in the league at this age, but who knows kind of where they're at now. For me, it was tight end. And I think that's why a lot of us picked it last. And I don't think it was so much that like, oh, there's so many good options at tight end, but it was just, there's like your core of like these tight ends are really good. These tight ends are whatever. And then it was just a whole bunch of guys. I'm like, I don't even know if you can play football. You've been on the team for a long time, but maybe it's because, you're just a tight end. I didn't know. Like I listed out a bunch of names. Like I said, I'm like, Noah Fant is a terrible tight end in my opinion, but there are people who think he's really good. So I just think that you look at all of us drafting tight end basically last. That says a lot for how crappy the tight end is. It's not that I thought there were good tight ends. It was more there were so many horrible tight ends for me to pick from. It was hard for me to narrow it down to who I wanted to pick because they were all just so garbage. It was like, man, how do I narrow this down to just 4 names for my board and then ultimately 1? I mean, I had 3 of my 4 names were still on the board when I got around to pick. So
yeah. Well, and the other thing is you never know if one of them is just a blocking tight end that's going to make your O-line better, and you don't want to do that.
Which is the only reason I didn't draft Jelani Woods, because he's a giant. He's like, I don't know, 6'9", 300 pounds of, I don't know. I was like, well, at least he can stand in front of somebody. I don't,
That's why I went Conklin. I know he can't block. He can catch a little bit, but he doesn't do anything else.
He's also old. So, I mean.
And injury prone, I think.
Yep, that too. And he's on the Jets now, so like.
He is, yeah. Being backed up by a solid Mercedes Lewis, though.
Ah, yes. That's a blocking tight end, though.
All right. Kind of open up general discussion. What do you guys think? Was there anybody that you disagreed on the pick? Any picks that you loved? There was definitely coach that I thought shouldn't be around, but we'll open up. What do you guys think? What were your thoughts on the process?
I was still surprised by the Davis Mills pick. I mean, I know he's on the Texans. He's got a bad record, but like he was a 61% completion percentage last year, 67% as a rookie when he took over partway through the season. He's always had positive touchdown to interception ratios with like almost no receivers. Brandon Cooks when he's been healthy, but that's kind of it. So I don't know. I think he's a better quarterback. He reminds me of like a Kirk Cousins when he was younger.
Really? to me, Davis Mills is going to be. I mean, some of these guys, I guess you could put on this, but like he'll be an Andy Dalton or one of these guys that he's going to be in the league for a while. You know, when he loses this job, which he will, he'll be a backup on that team till his contract ends. Somebody else will pick him up as a backup. Like he is a serviceable guy. He's not going to make mistakes. Like to me, that's why. Like I don't think he was high on my list, but I looked at other guys. I'm like, Ritter's probably not going to be in the league in 3 years. Zach Wilson for sure isn't going to be in the league in 3 years.
No,
right?
He'll be on the Panthers. It'll be great.
so I'm looking around and I'm like, Davis Mills could probably stick around for a decade being that journeyman backup guy because he's good enough to be a backup. But these other guys are just like Davis Mills isn't special, but I don't think he's hot garbage either.
I don't know. I think I personally think he's just been, I just think he's really, really bad. Some of it also is probably a little bit of it is also a little bit of the pedigree stuff that we were even talking about a little bit last week, Dan. And, you know, you were saying, hey, nobody drafted a Super Bowl winning head coach other than you. No, I mean, I did draft a quarterback that, you know, should have had the worst record in the league last year, right? And so some of it was based on pedigree. I hear what you're saying that maybe, you know, some of it may have come down to coaching, but I think with Dennis Allen being his coach, I think that, you know, some of that's not going to help him. So, you know, he's clearly proven that if his coach is bad, he's bad and your team is going to be bad. And that's kind of the pedigree I was going with.
Alan, you got any thoughts on our boy Davis Mills?
No, you know, he's just forgettable to me. The whole Texans organization is I just forget about most of the seasons. I'm just like, oh yeah, they're there, I guess, doing some stuff. Damian Pierce was like the only thing that I thought was like a light over there, and unfortunately, I don't think you could base your team around running backs anymore for too long.
Damian Pierce was actually on my board to be a running back I would draft. Fun fact, yeah. So I want to talk about these coaches. So 3 of them I agree were bad. I had 2 guys I didn't talk about, but if you had picked either Zach Taylor or Stanley, I wouldn't have faulted you because I think both of those guys are propped up by top 4 quarterbacks in the league, and I think both of them in the grand scheme of things are horrible coaches. The fact that Stanley even still has a job after the abysmal performance he does, not allowing that team to go anywhere every year, I think alone puts him there. And Zach Taylor minus Joe Burrow was what, 3-14 or 2-14 or something.
13,
yeah. I mean, it was horrid, right? So I think those are both guys that have great winning percentages, but I think they're both propped up by those quarterbacks. But how was Todd Bowles not get picked?
Yeah, for me,
that was my other option, but like, and like I just think Ron Rivera is an atrocious coach. Like he gets so much credit for the time that he had Cam Newton when Cam Newton was like Cam Newton, but he's done nothing other than that. Like he's been bad. Look at the quarterback carousel that they've run through in Washington. Like. And I mean, even in Carolina after Cam Newton left, like he does nothing with his offenses or his defenses. I mean, yeah, the Washington defense is decent now, but they drafted him before he got there.
I just look at Todd Bowles and I go, this is a dude that couldn't put a good team on the field with Tom Brady as his quarterback. And if you can't manage to be a somewhat successful franchise with Tom Brady, that should say a lot about you as a head coach. And I know they scapegoated some people, but that team shouldn't have made the playoffs. They got blown out in the playoffs. And I think Tom Brady was time for him to walk away. But like, that wasn't Tom Brady's fault. That was a team that was a Super Bowl contender that looked terrible and was only propped up and looked half decent in that horrendous division because of Tom Brady. So, yeah, when you have a guy like that as your quarterback and you still are that terrible, Todd Bowles to me was bad. So,
yeah, my only thing with them was they had so many injuries last year too. Their O-line and the receivers were dinged up the entire season. So, I mean, not to give him a credit.
Yeah, it was like he's been bad everywhere. So,
like
once you get Tom Brady, take your excuses away.
Last year was coaching. I think it was that and luck. So,
I think when I look at coaching, I don't necessarily think the coaching, like I don't think it was 100% on him. But I think coaches need to take a lot more blame in the NFL than like other sports. I don't put it on the coach as much, but in the NFL, a lot more of it is on the coach than anything else. And like, again, I'll take it back. Hackett was so bad last year. Now, I'm not saying that team would be phenomenal, but that same team last year with Sean Payton wins 9 games. Like, Hackett is that bad. So coach can make massive difference.
The Jags turnaround.
Right. That team wins the division this year. I'll put that hot take in now. That team wins the division.
Yeah, that's a hot take.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not.
It's an automatic win in this competition if you can choose Urban Meyer. So
yeah. Yeah. Any final thoughts, guys?
I think we all understood the assignment. I think all of our teams have potential to go 0-17. Good work, everybody.
There's some bad people in the NFL.
The defenses were interesting because like mixing and matching bad pass rushes with bad secondaries. Like there's not too many teams that had both. I mean, I think the Raiders kind of did, but like, I mean, you pick the Rams secondary, or they still have Aaron Donald. You know, there's a couple of others that, I mean, the Titans secondary is god awful, but their pass rush isn't bad.
The only teams I had doubled up on my defense were the Lions. And their pass rush wasn't horrendous with Aiden Hutchinson, but their secondary is definitely bad.
That's potential to step up too. Like
yes, yeah, and I liked him, so that's why I didn't pick him when he was still around. And then I had the Cardinals on both of mine because their secondary was absolute trash as well. So the Cardinals all the way around were bad. So yeah, I mean, both of them were there. I mean, you could have picked some of the worst. I mean, the Falcons, the Bears, I didn't have them both on there, but they were terrible too. So
that means at least tried to make moves this offseason. I think they even just traded for Jeff Okuda. I don't know if that'll help him or not because he evidently can't stay healthy. But at least they look like they're trying to field a competent team this year.
So wait, they're trying to get better by drafting a dude who was on the 3rd worst secondary in all of football.
He didn't play all. He hasn't played at all.
Right, so you couldn't get on the field
for sure. For sure.
For a top, what was he, the 3rd overall pick?
Yeah.
Not good. All right, guys. Well, this was definitely fun. I don't know if I had more fun picking trash teams or if I did actually picking a Super Bowl contender, but this was definitely a good time. Once we actually get into the season, let's circle back. Let's see if we can draft some new teams once we see some of these guys starting to come out. But definitely had a good time. I agree. All these teams can go 0-17, and it just goes to show that for as many great superstars that are in the league, there are some really, really bad players too. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you next week.